Hi, Dom from John Rick Games, and we're going to talk a little bit about the construction of Hunger and Lies. A real short video, just letting you know that this module is going to be produced much like our previous couple of modules. This is the original version here. This is a DIY POD version of it. That it was a print on demand, and if anybody's ever seen these before, these print on demand books, they've got basically a blank inside cover. The cover is connected, and we always have to put a blank page on the back. As well, so we got a lot of blank space in these POD books, and also the map had to be done inside the book. We couldn't do a separate map. So, in the Kickstarter version here that we're going to try to create for you, it's going to be much more like our previous ones. This is the Beneath the Ghoul layer that we did over the summer. Much like this one, the cover is now removable. There's print on the inside of the cover, and the booklet doesn't need to have any of the blank pages at all. It's really exciting. We're also going to have a pull-out map. I'm able to take out about 8 or 9 pages of map out of the original book, and that's going to be a fold-out poster map. I don't have a copy of it to show you here, but basically it's a good-sized map. We're looking at a little over 20 inches by about 30 inches, so almost 2 foot by 3 foot, good-sized map. But we're not sure on the actual size yet. I also don't know if it's going to be a 1 or 2-sided map because I don't know if I've got like functional material for the backside, so it might just be a one-sided map. We'll know this as we get a little further along in the process, but that's the design of the book. It's really a wonderful thing. Quick note on those removable covers too. I know a lot of people are starting to do that now. I'm excited to do it. I was excited to see that we could do it. It's part of the entire reason that I wanted to do this reprint run, because we can now take those covers off. And the reason for that is not because I'm trying to mimic older style games. I get that. A lot of people ask me about that. That is not the goal of this, even though the design looks very similar to those kinds of games. It's mostly because I think it's just a good design. I love modules that have the cover that comes off. A lot of times I have a hard time playing them when they're in a booklet form like this. Even my own books, like I can't even really use this very well. I usually have to print off a copy for myself to use at the table that I can actually write in and whatnot. Then I have to keep flipping through the book. So that's actually the reason I use those removable covers. They're just very functional at the table. You can always put, especially if you have the map like in the Ghoul layer, for example, if you need a reference for the map, I usually actually hand draw my own maps too when I'm actually running this. But the reference is always really nice, and you can kind of put this up behind your GM screen, or just use it as a screen if you use screens. And it just sits up there as a quick reminder of what's going on in the dungeon. Very useful, very functional, and more importantly, you get to have the booklet as a free-form thing that you can just move through as you need to. I know there's some commentary like, does it really matter if there's a cover? Well, kind of, because the cover does sort of force itself back closed a lot, at least with the paper ones. You can kind of fold it back. If you really beat up your module, you can fold that back and just keep your page open all the time. It lays a lot better that way. So that's why I like doing these removable covers. It's really a table functional thing. In fact, actually, really, that's my whole design process for all of my modules. We always play them. We make sure they're playable. We want to make sure they're played at a table, usually several times, and not so much in a play test. I put them in full campaigns when I can. Not always able to do that, but we try to do that. And these books are physically designed to be functional at your game table. However, I know a lot of you have now switched to digital, so we do. Obviously, we've got the PDF versions, and even in our PDF versions, we try to make those as functional as we can. For anybody that picked up Warren to the Great Goblin Chief, you still can pick it up in this Kickstarter as well. You'll find that the physical version of that not only it follows that same principle, removable cover, big fold-out map. It's real cool. It actually even has 2 separate booklets in that one, and the second booklet is just GM material. We want to keep that totally separate. But the PDF version of that actually has variable different kinds of maps, ones that you can print out if you needed to, that's been broken down page by page with some overlap, so you can easily just kind of tape that together if you wanted to. Or the full maps, if you actually have a large printing thing, you can actually print out the full maps. So we wanted to make sure there's lots of different variations for that. We're also starting to look into doing digital maps. We made a couple of digital maps for the Ghoul layer for people that requested that on our Discord server. I can make anything you need to in the PDF forms and put it in there to make it easier to use at your table. So we really strive to make this a functional thing and make it easier for you to GM and easier for the players to interact with. The map, for example, of Hunger and Lies that'll be coming out, we wanted to make sure that map was useful as well. The original version, I usually have to print this thing out. This one's going to be a big fold-out map, and originally I was going to put the names of the locations on there and decided, again, table functionality, we don't want to do that. I want to make sure that this is useful at your table in case you want to use the map for something. And I don't think it was a good idea to put the names on there because your setting could be very different than the way that we've intended it. So we have a map that we're going to give you, and it's going to be no locations. It'll have the numbers on it for keying reasons, but otherwise it'll be a blank map. And it isn't because we're lazy. It's because we're going to make sure that you can use it for something. And of course, if you get the PDF version of that map, of course, you can write on the PDF all you want to as well. Put that up. Actually, that's one of the last things I did with it. I have a big PDF version of the map, and I had a layer up on a big screen next to me, and that you can actually write on it and make the party was able to make notes on it that way if they want to, digital notes. Although I prefer doing stuff by hand, and so does my group. I still had a digital version that they could always reference if they needed to. So the map will just be basically a blank map. If you've ever seen the City State of the Invincible Overlord, I think we've got a copy, the box set over here from Mayfair Games. One of my favorite products of all time. I love that box set. I use it every time I run my large campaigns. I always use the City State. That map is fantastic, and the way that they've done. There's 2 different maps in that box. That I wish I could do that for this module too, but we're just keeping it the standard black and white. But that's what we're looking at here is a map a lot like that. So it's basically just the grid, the structures. We even have different levels of the buildings as well for 2-story buildings. I don't think there's any 3-story buildings in the ward area. There could be. They're just the way I designed it. There just aren't any 2-story buildings or 3-story buildings. And it doesn't have a sewer system either, so it's just a flat road area and 1 or 2-story buildings. But all that is mapped out. You can run around the top side. We really kind of designed it to be sort of like a rooftop chase setup in case that happens, because we've had that happen a couple of times at the table too. So I want to make sure that that's ready to go too. If you have parties that want to jump between buildings and stuff, all those parts are there to make that a lot easier for you to do. So hopefully you enjoy it. We'll be real excited to get this to you in the next couple of months. So please back us if you like the idea. And we'll be more than happy to make a lot more of these in the future. So thanks for backing. Thanks for watching. Tom from Johnny Work Games. Game on.